Ronald McDonald is a strange character in American history. As a child, he seemed like one of those irreplaceable staples, the fast food equivalent to Mickey Mouse. In the last decade, however, Ronald was rebranded and then eventually phased out of general advertising for McDonald's altogether. To a lot of people, Ronald and his friends like Birdie, Mayor McCheese, and the Hamburglar are just characters from the McDonald's commercials. But something a lot of people don't know is that there was actually something of a McDonald's cartoon series that they all starred in. My name is Deepcut, welcome back to Cartoon Universe, and I thought today we would take a look back at these long-lost McDonald's cartoons. Now, Ronald McDonald originally appeared in live-action commercials as a creepy clown that lures children to McDonald's to take their money and give them bad food in return. As the commercials featuring him evolved, the idea of McDonaldland was brought in, a place where the trees can talk and burgers and chicken nuggets grow naturally, but for some reason, all of the people still have to go to McDonald's and actually pay for the food. It is here that we meet the Hamburglar, a creepy, monstrous-looking character who can't even speak English and is always trying to burgle some hams. Grimace, Birdie, and other weird characters would be introduced along the way. Grimace started off as something like a villain, I guess, but became Ronald's airheaded sidekick. Eventually, in one commercial, they hatch a giant egg and meet Birdie, who is an early bird, and attempt to advertise their breakfast menu more heavily at McDonald's. In the year 1990, McDonald's would produce a one-off animated short that featured the McDonald's characters going on a pirate adventure for treasure, animated by Deke, known for a lot of the other somewhat weird cartoons of its time. Speaking of which, if you guys want me to make a video deep diving into any of these, leave a comment down below letting me know which one to start with. Later in the 90s, McDonald's would commission another Ronald McDonald cartoon from Klasky Csupo, the same studio known for Rugrats among other classics, and the influence is very obvious. It has a similar tone to Rugrats, a similar pace, a similar blandness. It even has the same directors and used a lot of the same music from later episodes of Rugrats too. The only thing it didn't have was Rugrats' charm. Urban legend has it that the show was originally being developed for TV, but no network would even consider it because of how gross that sort of advertising can be. It's bad enough that so many cartoons are just extended toy commercials, but one that programs a child to ask their mom and dad for fast food more often is pretty gross, and can lead to some serious issues later in life. With that in mind, McDonald's would go on to produce the series in a direct-to-video format that could be sold in-store at McDonald's. Keep in mind, I have found no sources that confirm this urban legend, and the plan may have been to produce them as direct-to-video from the very beginning. In total, McDonald's and Klasky Csupo would end up producing 6 direct-to-video episodes, each episode being 44 minutes long, and I decided to watch all of them. Each episode opens with Ronald McDonald in full live-action form, hanging out in his clown house, where he lives with a talking dog who is very depressed. After establishing some theme for the episode by talking to his dog, Ronald would go down his slide into McDonaldland, where he becomes a cartoon character. There, he hangs out with a variety of characters who serve no real purpose in the show. The Hamburglar is the most important to the plot, and because of that, he can actually speak English instead of just random gibberish like he did in the commercials and in the previous Deke cartoon. Despite burgling for Hamburgs on the regular, he is an accepted member of Ronald's friend group, which includes Birdie, Grimace, Tika, sometimes this asshole named Franklin, these horrifying goblins, and these sentient chicken nuggets. The chicken nuggets are these sort of trickster spirits that bring an extra life to the show. They are apparently a dance troupe who have no loyalty to Ronald and always get mixed up in his adventures. Sometimes they will align themselves with Ronald's enemies, but at the flip of a dime they will get bored and decide to join his side instead. They bring a lot of fun to the show, but outside of that, I would say it's an overall dull experience. The episodes are available on YouTube if you want to watch them, and I will link them in the description down below, but they can be pretty hard to sit through even at 1.5 times the speed. Each episode focuses on a completely random adventure. The first episode is supposed to be about camping, but they end up at a haunted house. One episode is just about the McDonald's version of the Loch Ness Monster. Because the episodes are 44 minutes long, the pace moves really slow, and each episode contains 3 really terrible montage songs that help carry the plot. None of it is interesting. None of it is particularly awful either, it just feels like the sort of thing you'd put on for someone who can't really understand complex sentences yet, and that was kind of the point. There was one episode that I did find pretty enjoyable, where the Hamburglar fakes an entire alien invasion in order to steal a bunch of hamburgers while everyone is distracted, because they had a perfectly timed plan of what to do if there was an alien invasion. What the Hamburglar didn't expect, however, is that there would be a real alien invasion on that very day. Thankfully for him, the alien is just kind of a little asshole, and the two team up to just troll the town. For reasons I really don't want to waste my time explaining, the Hamburglar ends up on a ship with the alien and his parents. Ronald McDonald and the gang end up getting into a rocket to go after him, and after many astronaut hijinks, manage to make it back to Earth, and everyone lives happily ever after, I guess. It wasn't amazing by any means, but it had the most fun with its characters. Outside of this episode, there were other funny moments, bits, gags, and scenes, but not enough to make it really an enjoyable experience for me. Watching the McDonald's cartoon was a lot like eating McDonald's, which, by the way, I actually did while watching this show to get a truly authentic experience. I thought if I just leaned into it, I'd have a good time, but at the end of it all, I just felt kinda gross. The format of the show isn't all that different from Rugrats, as I said before, but instead of the wacky hijinks being children's imagination, they're actually happening to the characters. With Rugrats, these wacky adventures are interesting because you see the funny twists and turns that the minds of a child makes up, how they exaggerate things they don't understand. The slow, muted movements and soft characters that Klasky Koopo was known for works really well for Rugrats because the show is about toddlers and babies, but it works less when your main character is a clown. I wanted to see Ronald be some prankster who does cool clown nonsense, but instead he just talks like a guy who is kind of depressed, but trying to convince you that he's hanging in there. One thing I was really surprised to find in the show, however, is how little they actually talked about McDonald's or its food. In the original commercials, they were constantly mentioning products, showing them growing on trees, using the menu items as plot devices, and just generally trying to make you hungry. In the show, we do get nods here and there, particularly when the Hamburglar is burglarizing them hamburgers, but it is extremely understated compared to the commercials and what I was expecting. And at the end of the day, that is what leaves such a bad taste in my mouth from watching it. I went into this video hoping it would be fun and wacky, but it was just kind of sad. While researching the history of Ronald McDonald, I wanted to find one good thing about him. I wanted some redemption. Maybe in his early years that made him seem kind of cool, but even in his original commercials, he's just kind of a creepy Pied Piper character that hypnotizes children and takes them to a surreal fast food fantasy land that was so 70s that you could only enjoy it with several mind-altering substances taken beforehand. So, at the end of the day, I'm glad that they retired Ronald McDonald. Here at Cartoon Universe, we love a lot of cartoons that were made for kids, but they are all entertaining or even enlightening in their own way. But the wacky adventures of Ronald McDonald is neither of those things. It is, at best, advertising, and if you think about it, more akin to simple exposure propaganda. But what do you guys think? Did you guys ever like Ronald McDonald? Did you see this cartoon series when you were a kid? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.